Hello and welcome back to the Movie Bar Podcast, the average movie podcast for average movie fans by average movie fans. The bar is now open. What are we doing? We're getting all close with. I am your host, John, and I am here with my best friend and confidant.
Guess that would make it me, Justin.
Because once again, conspicuous by his absence, Kyle is not here. So I think he went in the witness protection program.
Defend yourself, Kyle.
Yeah. How you doing this week? Ready for another good one?
Sure.
Hopefully not as long as last week's.
Well, we'll see. It's a good movie.
Well, a little bit of housekeeping. First off, I was wrong. Dreadstream did not come out. It debuted at a film festival April 11th. It did not come out on Shudder until October 6th, 2022. So I texted Kyle. He replied, actually. And he's pretty sure we did a Fresh from the Stream with you.
Nah, I don't know.
So I went back and I looked through my letterbox, and it said I watched it on October 10th, which would have been right around the time we recorded, but it wasn't the October 11th show or the 18th, so I have to do a little more digging. So this will be a continuing saga. Did we cover Deadstream?
I don't know.
Yeah. So, in other housekeeping, this past Friday, I attended Silver Scream Con in Danvers, Mass. Holy shit, was not what I was expecting. I had been to Monster Expo and Monster Expo Halfway to Halloween, which are smaller conventions. This was fucking massive. And it was at the same hotel where Coco Keys used to be.
I remember.
And a little bit of confusion as to where to go and where to line up. But we figured it out and stood in line for a half an hour for no reason, because then I just decided to get the Adam Green and Joe Lynch photo op, so I got to meet them. And then I got to meet Joe Bob Briggs, who was really nice, really tall too. And then I got Adam and Joe to sign the photo that we took together, got another picture with them, had a nice talk with Joe Lynch that we both had tears in our eyes when we walked away, but it was fun. A lot of other guests. Alex Vincent was there, Christina Leese, Catherine Cochran from Terrifier. I think William Dafoe was there Saturday. Chris Jericho was there Saturday. And the guys from the Dead Meat podcast were there. I think CJ Graham was there. Tony Todd was there, but his line was fucking way too long. And I get to do it all over again this weekend at TerraCon in Marlboro. Except this time I'm bringing our mascot, Hunter. So maybe me and him will record something for next week's episode talking about that. But, so yeah, that covers Silver Scream Con. Did you see the article? Did you see the article about the new Strangers trilogy coming?
Yeah. See what happens with that.
Yeah. I like the first two. The first two were good.
I didn't see the second one.
Yeah. Well, especially the first one when they're like, "Why are you doing this?" Because you answered you were home.
Yeah, it's creepy as F.
So, yeah. So we got two trailers we're going to discuss. We'll start off with Suitable Flesh, since we kind of covered that mostly last week. I don't believe this is the official trailer. This was just one that was shown at the film festival, but what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it looks like it has a whole lot of, it has a whole lot of sizzle. Let's see if it has any steak.
Yeah.
As they say.
I was talking to Joe Lynch on Friday, and he was kind of busting my chops because I wasn't going to be there Saturday. because I had a prior commitment, and he was like, "Dude, I brought my new movie. You gotta come see my new movie." And I was like, "You didn't bring your new movie." He's like, "Yeah, I brought it." Yeah. He was fucking with me, of course, but
Well, yeah.
But you know, I said, "Well, I'm excited to see it." I believe I heard somebody say January for a Blu-ray release, so that's good. So we also watched the trailer for No One Can Save You. What are your thoughts on that?
That looks interesting. The old alien invasion looking thing. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty,
Yeah, it does.
pretty scary. So
it was giving me Signs vibes.
no, because this one actually looked like it had some action and was scary. Signs was M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's bullshit.
I like Signs.
Hate that movie.
But yeah, definitely lots of action.
That's where the alien comes out and does a little crotch wiggle to the camera.
Yeah.
I don't like that movie.
Well, so I think we will be covering this one
soon.
Yeah, it comes out September 22nd on Hulu. Hulu bringing the heat all of a sudden with all these good movies.
We'll see.
And the trailer that I am most excited for, Thanksgiving. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, looks interesting. It does. I know it's been a long time coming. So that dude from Suits and Hostel there,
Yeah,
black hair, he's creepy as fuck anyway. So
yeah. And it seemed like they redid a lot of scenes from the Grindhouse trailer.
Well, I'm sure they would, yeah.
And I'm excited for this one. The only thing that took it out was that it didn't have the voiceover of Thanksgiving. It was just a normal voiceover, but maybe in the trailer. That was just the teaser trailer. But that comes out November 17th in theaters only. That'll definitely be a day one watch. I am looking forward to that. I've been waiting since 2009. Or whenever the hell, 2007, whenever the hell Grindhouse came out. Yeah.
Cool.
What you watched this week?
Well, let's see. Last Tuesday, I watched Crank, and I was about to watch Crank 2, but you stopped me from doing that. I've watched Step Brothers. Talk more about that a little later.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it for movies.
I have to see what last time we recorded was the 4th. Well, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I've had a light week. I watched Hell House LLC. Have you seen that?
Kyle had.
Terrifier. I decided to watch that again. And then Friday night on Joe Bob Last Drive-In, they showed the original 1988 Night of the Demons. I'd never seen that version. I saw the other one, the remake, but never that version. And of course, Mrs. Doubtfire. So, all right, what's your pick of the week?
Well, I went with the comedy classic, Step Brothers. Brennan Huff, played by Will Ferrell, Dale Doback, played by John C. Reilly, have one thing in common. They are both lazy, unemployed leeches who still live with their parents. When Brennan's mother and Dale's father marry and move in together, it turns the overgrown boy's world upside down. Their insane rivalry and narcissism pull the new family apart, forcing them to work together to reunite their parents. Released July 25th, 2008, directed by Adam McKay. I mean, this movie is awesome. I love this movie. If it's on, I'm watching it. I mean, just the drum kit when they get grounded. My God. 7 later, hell! What are you doing?
I mean,
movie.
you not get Randy Jackson's autograph. I mean, oh, we have
You
so
want to
much
go
room.
around garage and play karate? Yup.
Yeah, we have so much more room in here.
So much more room for activities.
Did we just become best friends? I think we
Yup.
did. Yeah, those two together are fucking classic.
They are.
That Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten to Step Brothers 2 yet.
Well, they tend to hit once and then.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking Catalina wine mixer.
The fucking Catalina wine mixer.
Well, my pick of the week is Night of the Demons. Wild teenage girls, played by Mimi Kincaid and Leanna Quigley, hold a Halloween seance in an old funeral parlor to scare their friends. Released on September 9th, 1988, and was directed by Kevin S. Tenney. Good haunted movie, 80s style.
Very 80s.
Especially watching it with Joe Bob cutting in. He actually had, I think he had Mimi Kincaid and Leanna Quigley on. And
Linnea.
Linnea, sorry. But, yeah, nice Halloween movie. Get you ready for the month of October.
Woo-hoo. All right.
Coming fast.
Kyle, what's your pick? Oh. Sorry.
No, Kyle sent me his pick this week. It was you watched Brokeback Mountain again. Big fan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, he said it was a good movie. So
there you go.
Thank you, Kyle, for sending in.
Thanks, Cam.
Hey, Cam. You can going home. All right, time for this week's main topic. Take it away, Justin.
It's Mrs. Doubtfire, dear. Troubled that he has little access to his children, divorced dad Daniel Hillard hatches an elaborate plan. With help from his creative brother Frank, he dresses up as an older British woman and convinces his ex-wife Miranda to hire him as a nanny. Mrs. Doubtfire wins over the children and helps Daniel become a better parent. But when both Daniel and his nanny persona must meet different parties at the same restaurant, his secrets may be exposed.
Originally released on November 22nd, 1993, it was directed by Christopher Columbus, screenplay by Chris Columbus, Randy Mayim Singer, and Leslie Dixon, distributed by 20th Century Studios, adapted from Madame Doubtfire, was rated PG-13, had a runtime of 120 minutes, 2 hours and 5 minutes, and is not currently streaming anywhere.
It is currently streaming on Hulu and Tubi.
Is it? Oh, when I looked it up, it said nothing.
I started to try and watch it on Hulu, and then the commercial happened, so let's screw that one to Voodoo. Our cast of characters. We have the immortal Robin Williams as Daniel Hillard and Euphigenia Doubtfire, dear. Sally Field as Miranda Hillard, Pierce Brosnan as Stu Dunmire, Harvey Firestein as Frank Hillard, Polly Holliday as Gloria Cheney, Lisa Jacob as Lydia Hillard, Matthew Lawrence as Chris Hillard, Mara Wilson as Natalie Hillard, Robert Prosky as Jonathan Lundy, Anne Haney as Mrs. Sellner, Scott Capurro as Jack, Martin Mull as Justin Gregory, and William Newman as Mr. Sprinkles.
All right. So our movie starts off and we see an animated bird.
Yeah, singing away to the old, really classic music. I couldn't give you an actual piece, but
Figaro.
going through it, yeah, the old Barbara of Seville.
Yeah. So then we see the cartoon cat grab the bird and shove a cigarette in its mouth.
Sorry, there's a cat scratching at my door, trying to get in.
So this is when we first get our interactions with Daniel Hillard. And he's playing the voice of the cat and the bird. And he then proceeds to ad-lib what the bird would be saying.
Yeah.
By the cigarettes
he's
in his
right.
mouth.
It shouldn't be promoting that. This was the 90s.
But it's funny when he's making these sounds and it's like, oh, my lungs are black. Oh. The bird's sitting there just enjoying a cigarette. Like, so out of good conscience, he quits. And I love when he pans up to the text, the sound text in the booth. What do you guys think? And they're all smoking, the big smoke all over the room, and so yeah, so he quits.
And when he's on his way out the door, piss off, Lou.
Yeah, like this first 5-10 minutes shows how really good Robin Williams was.
Oh yeah, I mean his voices are
the voice act, like the different voices he could do. So, any good father that quits his job goes and picks up his kids from school.
Yep. And promises their child a birthday party that they're not supposed to have.
Because mom won't be home for a couple hours, dude. So.
We all know where that goes in movie land.
So, of course, our next scene, we're at the house where there's a mobile petting zoo.
Yeah, man, big old party going on. People dancing on the table.
Bunnies and goats and ponies and kids running amok.
Cute little old lady Karen across the street.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta call up mom to end the fun.
Yep. So, apparently Chris wasn't supposed to have a party because of his report card. But Dad, being the cool dad, throws him a party. Why not?
I got to tell you, having just had Sammy's birthday party yesterday, there's no way in hell anybody's getting that many people for a birthday party last minute like that.
Yeah. That was planned, man. We know it from experience. That was planned.
Well, yeah, especially all the presents that were wrapped and all that crap. Mm-hmm. I mean, put a little bit more thought into that party when you're going to put up, that it wasn't planned.
And you mean to tell me that he was able to book a mobile petting zoo within minutes?
Yeah, in San Francisco.
Yeah. But, it's against city ordinance to have farm animals on private residence. So Melinda comes home.
Miranda.
I'm sorry, Miranda. And
big difference there, guy.
Yeah. I don't know where the hell that name just came from. But anyway, so she comes home from work, not happy.
Well, you wouldn't be happy if you showed up to a mobile petting zoo and a cop with the ticket book out.
Yes. While discussing several tickets that are violations.
Multiple violations.
So she goes inside the house, sees all these kids jumping around like that.
Jump around!
And to find Daniel and Chris dancing on the table together.
The horse eating her cake.
The horse eating her cake, yep. And party's over.
Party's over, man. She reaches down under that cow, or under that horse, even though it was ill-advised, given that he drank a lot of water.
Yeah.
Pull the plug on that party.
Yeah. So what's your first take of Daniel so far?
I mean, so far he's not very responsible.
Not like us.
Mr. Fun-loving dad.
Yeah, we're the responsible parents. And Miranda?
Well, she's in charge.
Yeah, pretty much. And Daniel gets to have all the fun, and she gets what's left.
Well,
She's the bad guy. She's always the bad guy.
Somebody's got to put a stop to the fun.
So next, her and Daniel are cleaning up like a good little puppy. He's following around with a trash bag.
And they're fighting, having that inevitable fight.
Yes, which ends with her going, "It's over," and him going, "No, we can work this out.
We still love each other.
Yeah,
No, we
therapy. We'll do therapy. That we'll get through this." Q scene, courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge makes it a point to say that normally the mother is favored in these kind of cases, but that was not taken into consideration. But due to the fact of him not having a job or an apartment,
kind of hard to house kids when you don't have a house.
they do side with the mother, and he gets visitation every Saturday. Now, as a dad, if put in that scenario, how would you react?
Well, I mean, you're not going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you kind of have to, at the same time, just take it. I mean,
yeah, you don't really have a choice. But it wasn't permanent. The judge did grant him 90 days to get his life in order.
Do what he says, get your shit together, and you're good. But
you know, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I felt for him. That kind of opened some old wounds. But so now he's visiting his brother Frank and Aunt Jackie. And that he's staying with them until he finds a place, and he goes and sees his court-ordered or court-appointed liaison or whatever.
Liaison.
I love when she asked if he has any talents.
Voices.
I could be a hot dog. I could be a hot dog.
Yep.
And once again, showing his comedic
range.
Yeah. Very funny with the different voices. And we have come to Earth looking for an intelligent life form.
Oops,
We're sorry.
we made a mistake.
Yeah. So she gives him a job. She sets up a job interview for him at a TV studio. And he thinks he's going to be discussing these canisters on air, movies on air.
You take those canisters, you pack them on a truck, you ship them. And then you take those canisters over there, you box them up, and you ship them.
And what do you do after you box them?
You ship them, jackass.
So now he's got an apartment, he's got a job, but his apartment's a mess. And he's like mine was for 2 weeks after you left. Yeah. Wasn't that clean before you got here, but
no, it wasn't.
So now having dinner with the kids, and Miranda
Job
pulls up outside the apartment building,
starts honking,
just beeps the horn.
Yeah,
but damn it, they are his kids too.
Yes, they are. I would have thrown something out the window.
Yeah, So she forces her way into the apartment to get the kids, who are eating Chinese food.
Even though she's early.
She was an hour late dropping them off and an hour early to pick them up. That ain't cool.
Nope, not cool.
This is one we really should have had a woman on. But So he finds out that she is putting in a newspaper ad for a nanny / housekeeper / babysitter / dinner prepper. And he tries. You know, he does try.
Changes the phone number.
No, I mean, he tries to let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
But she wants no part of that. The kids do, but she doesn't. But as you said, he does change the phone numbers. Couldn't do that nowadays because it's probably all done online anyway.
Oh, wait, everything's online.
That's how it was back in the 90s. What was this, 93? Yeah. So, so he then proceeds to call her in several different voices.
Jolene, get back in your cage!
Oh, you got 2 boys and a girl, eh? Yeah. Well, I don't work with the boys since I used to be one.
I used to be one.
Um,
I am Chubb.
Do you speak English?
I am Chubb.
So at this point, she is completely freaked out by this cast of characters that he has created and has called her from different places in front of us. Was this before caller ID?
Oh, yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
I was looking at her phone. Yeah. I mean, they had it then, but, it's still plausible in the movie world to not have it.
Yeah. So, see, life was a lot easier to prank call people back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle and...
your refrigerator running?
Yeah, until that fucking Star 69 came out.
Mm-hmm.
You just call it? No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're showing our age now, but... So he goes, now to swiping for the kill. Oh, hello, dear. And we are finally
Always
introduced...
the British. Always the British. It's always the British. That nice, soothing way of talking.
Yep. So we're introduced to Mrs. Doubtfire.
You Virginia Doubtfire, dear.
Well, he only got the name Doubtfire because of a newspaper article that said police...
Sitting there on the bar. Yeah.
Police Doubtfire in arson case or whatever it said. So, of course, Miranda is ecstatic because this lady sounds normal. Kind of follows the...
Perfect.
Yeah, follows the same rules of life that Miranda would, and sets up an interview for Monday at 7. Wasn't there something else Monday at 7? We'll get to that.
Huh?
There was also somebody else visiting on Monday. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. Well, she said she was going to come by on Mondays.
Yeah, but they don't have that run until after he sets it.
Yeah. So he returns back to Frank and Jackie's with the request of, make me a woman. And we see many different variations until bingo. Any more work and he would have looked like Mom.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on the iterations of these?
I mean, this was just great. I think obviously he could have cut out a whole lot of it just by doing the voice.
Yeah.
Because you can build a body out of out of a voice. But no, it was funny. He's showing off his range. How well he does, the old Jewish mother. Barbara Streisand. The young Jewish mother. I mean, it was classic Robin.
Yeah. So they finally agree, full latex.
Full mask. Makes
mask.
it easier.
Make the casting of his head. And Mrs. Doubtfire is born.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes for the interview.
Knows just enough to make himself the most desirable candidate. Granted, he's the only candidate because he changed phone numbers. But
You think she would have looked at in the paper though and been like, "Wait a minute, that's not my phone number."
You would think, but plausible deniability. She's so busy.
Yeah.
Who has time for these things? But he mentions, how the little one looks like Stuart Little, which immediately will adorn you to any child when you mention anything that they like. Doesn't matter. You mention it, they are connected to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, Chris
used to play football, European football. For
Chris mentions that she looks like a fullback, and she says she was, but for soccer. So, and then there's Lydia.
Typical teen. Typical teen.
Well, yeah.
We did
getting a divorce. I mean,
we did forget the scene where he's actually leaving the house after the divorce, and he talks about the grandmother. That's just a formaldehyde.
Yeah.
So, in which we learned that he was reading Stuart Little with the little one. So Miranda is head over heels in love with this lady.
And meanwhile, bad-mouthing Daniel right in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Which, is not a nice thing to do, so.
No.
She does. Mrs. Doubtfire does edge her to push the kids upstairs and take the discussion into the kitchen, where they're making a nice little cup of tea, and Mrs. Doubtfire takes over, tells her to sit down, and just magically knows where everything is in the kitchen, and it doesn't raise any red flags. Well,
I've lived here 7 years. I still can't find half the shit.
And you put it there.
I know. But yeah, it was I would have been very suspicious. Wait a minute, you know where that shit is? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And she kind of gets a little suspicious. Well, you know your way around the kitchen. Well, everything's all nicey and tidy up. Like there was a label that says spoons, So, Mrs. Doubtfire returns back to Daniel's apartment.
She gets hired.
She does get hired, and she returns back to the apartment to find the court appointee there.
Yes, Ms. Zelnick.
And she asks if Mrs. Selner asks if she knows Daniel Hubbard. Oh yeah, I'm his sister, and brings her up to the apartment, and then says, "Let me go get Daniel," and runs back.
Cat and mouse game begins.
Yes. Proceeds to change out of Mrs. Doubtfire back into Daniel, who says he's in the shower, comes back out, and Mrs. Selner has a pair of pantyhose attached to her leg, as well as women's clothing all over the apartment.
He steps on she steps on the mouse trap.
Yep.
Oh, you're looking for some cheese. Oh, I could have gotten you some.
Yeah. But, his sister is a messy house guest, but makes a great cup of English tea. So, why don't you take over for a bit from here?
So as she's making the tea, back and forth, getting robed and disrobed as Mrs. Doubtfire. He's getting the bodysuit either off or on, and some kids across the alleyway see him disrobing.
He's putting it on.
Putting up a bit of a scene. Yeah, putting it on, whatever. The zipper's stuck either way. And he goes to close the window to stop him from looking, and bye-bye, Mrs. Doubtfire. The mask falls down into the alley below, where it then proceeds to get run over by a trash truck.
Yeah.
And he is screwed at this point because he's got the court-appointed liaison in there, no way to cover his face. So he heads down into the kitchen and is getting the tea ready when she joins him in the kitchen, and he quickly smashes his face into a cake to give himself a face mask. Genius move.
Very genius.
Genius cover. He was saying it's a meringue face mask and melting, and it drops it in her tea and all that. That's kind of disgusting, but
Yeah, I don't think it was
pretty
meringue.
funny.
I think it was frosting.
No, that's what. Yeah, I know, but that's what she said to.
Oh, yes. It's the meringue face mask.
Yeah.
Gets rid of wrinkles and
Yeah.
it's
So,
dropping
which, I mean, quality save. And you see her take a little and kind of rub it on her face. So that was a good scene there. Good way to kind of play the two sides there.
Yeah.
Cover your own ass quickly. I thought that was great. So
very quick thinking too.
Yep.
So now we're back at Miranda's house, and once again, she talks about the court-appointed liaison, mentions that his sister was living with him, not realizing that it's Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah. He doesn't even have a sister.
Yeah. And, we see some scenes with her interacting with the family, like when the first day she's babysitting. And
they're all sitting there watching the Dick Van Dyke Show.
And Lydia puts up a fight. And what happens? You don't want to do homework?
Cleaning.
Yep.
Clean.
Well, she's got her feet up drinking some iced tea, reading the paper.
Yes, it was very nice.
Let's talk about dinner.
Having some hot flashes.
Clearly not a chef in the kitchen whatsoever.
No.
Her first day as a woman and getting hot flashes.
I mean, you could tell it's a movie, though, because there's no way you're getting that kind of a meal delivered to a house like that in that kind of a hurry.
Yeah. Well, apparently it wasn't a hurry, because she said you could have came a little faster. And 4 meals for $137.
Fancy, nasty food, too.
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck it was. Orange shit, butternut squash.
All of that stuff probably wouldn't have filled one of us up.
And I'm surprised the kid ate it, the little one.
Yeah, no kidding.
But,
chicken nuggets?
So let's talk about Stu. Stu's now in the picture. Wants Miranda to decorate what's his apartment?
Hotel. Yeah, it's a hotel complex or apartment complex.
And we learned there's a little bit of a backstory there between them.
Former lovers.
But she's going through a divorce. But hey, what the hell? Why not, right? You live once.
You only live once, man.
So, what is your take on Stu?
I mean, he's Pierce Brosnan, man.
I forgot he was in this, honestly.
Well, I see this every couple of weeks, so.
I haven't seen this movie in a long time, so it's been a while since I've seen it, but.
I mean, he doesn't come off as, it's he's not playing the typical, other guy in the movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? He comes in like he has all the characteristics of being a douche.
The look,
the company, the look, the lifestyle,
the nice car,
the money, the nice things, all that stuff. But he still comes off as a nice guy without really living up to that look. Where until you kind of when he's talking to his friend there later on, but
yeah,
he's still at the front of it. He comes off as having some more higher intentions than normally you get in a movie other guy. So that was different. So that was good. I mean, they really make it in this more like Robin pushing those kinds of things on him, even though he doesn't actually show any of those characteristics.
Yeah, like, because you kind of seen it from his point of view, like Daniel's point of view, and this new guy, he's rich, he's good looking, he's muscular, he's got nice things, and the kids take to him right away, like instantly.
Wouldn't you if your mom was gonna bring home someone rich? As a kid?
Yeah, as a kid, maybe, yeah. But
I wasn't going with now.
It's a long story. But so then Mrs. Doubtfire breaks off the what was it, the Mustang, the Mercedes
The
emblem.
Mercedes emblem, yeah.
And kind of, oh dearie, here I found this out in this little hooligan. Well, Stu invites them all to come to the country club, to the pool, including Mrs. Doubtfire.
You gotta include Mrs. Doubtfire.
So we're at the pool. The new little family is having fun. Well, Daniel is sitting at the bar in drag.
Drinking his sorrows away.
Yep. Trying to hit on women, not realizing what he's wearing. And he has a conversation. Stu has a conversation with one of his friends at the club. Who are the Rugrats? Oh, this new girl I'm seeing, Miranda Hillard. Oh, and as he's walking away, proceeds to get belted with a piece of fruit.
Learn by fruiting.
Yeah.
You went that way.
So, you definitely see the interactions between the kids and Stu and Miranda and Stu, and it's just killing Daniel slowly. But
what you gotta do? You can't blow your cover.
Yep. So Daniel's back at work, and we see Mr. Sprinkles with the dinosaurs.
Some old man leaning on a camera there watching them.
Yep, and Daniel proceeds to put his foot in his mouth and says, "What kind of jerk would keep this guy on the air after all these years?" And it turns out it's that guy right there next to him.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Foreshadow.
Yes. So, another scene, Daniel's up there playing with the dinosaurs. He's got the king of the dinosaurs, T-Rex, do.
Only old James Brown. Mm.
Yeah, the Brontosaurus Brown. And
he's having a time up there. He's putting together a whole scene, a whole act, a whole play.
Yeah, that's exciting. Not like Mr. Sprinkles, who was like, and this dinosaur eats this dinosaur.
Although, there's definitely a few scenes in between the scene we just talked about and the one we're talking about.
Yeah, we're covering bases here. But what the hell was his name? Mr.
Lundy.
Mr. Lundy, Jonathan Lundy, says, "You know what? I like your ideas. 7 p.m. Friday at Bridges." So we return back to the Miranda Hillard residence, and her and the girls are trying to pick out a dress for her birthday dinner, and ask Mrs. Doubtfire's opinion. The red one,
great ones.
The black one. No, Mrs. Doubtfire wants something pure, something from 1976 to her aunt's funeral. Covers up everything. What do you think of the little comments she makes as she's walking out the room when they choose the short black dress?
I don't remember the comment.
Oh, you're calling me in here and ask my advice, but then you don't take it, so why even bother asking me?
Yeah. Oh, we missed a very, very important scene in between the dinner and the swimming. We forgot about when Chris and Lydia are up in their room, and
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire is in the bathroom, and Chris comes running in and catches Mrs. Doubtfire in a compromising position, standing there peeing like a man.
She's got it all. She's got the testicles. She's got the penis. So it's revealed that to Chris and Lydia that Mrs. Doubtfire is in fact Daniel in drag. And the first question out of Chris's mouth, "You don't like dressing like this, do you, Dad?" So, very pivotal scene.
Yes.
But they can't let what the fuck was the third one's name?
Natalie.
Yeah, can't let Natalie know because she's only 5.
She'll blow it.
Yeah, and definitely can't let Miranda know because that'll just fuck everything up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's during the dress scene where it is revealed that Stu has invited Mrs. Doubtfire to her birthday dinner
At Bridges on Friday
at 7 p.m.
Shocker.
Yeah, now we got a big dilemma.
Now you get the dilemma. Here it comes.
Now, she tries to get out of it by saying it's bingo night at the rectory, and it's her night to draw the balls. But Miranda insists she's part of the family now. She doesn't know what her life would be like without her.
Yes, she must go. She must go.
And so now we have another scene with Daniel and the kids at his apartment. It's clean. They're having a home-cooked meal.
Yes.
Miranda knocks on the door instead of just walking in. Is amazed at this research, like this development that she's learning about Daniel. Little does she know that he's really been practicing on her the whole time. But so, why don't you cover Bridges?
So on their way to Bridges, we have Miss Doubtfire and everybody arriving, and as they're heading in, Mr. Lundy is also arrived. Mr. Lundy goes in first, gets seated in the non-smoking section. And so when it comes their turn to be seated, the maitre d' asks Stu where they should be seated, and he's about to say non-smoking, and then Ms. Doubtfire, no, smoking, smoking.
Jeez, remember when restaurants had smoking and non-smoking sections?
Remember when airplanes had smoking and non-smoking sections? Jesus.
Remember you could smoke everywhere?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they off into the smoking section they go, and the great chase begins. So we got Mrs. Doubtfire and everybody sitting over there, and she excuses herself, makes a phone call, gets a message through that Daniel's going to be late to Mr. Lundy, all that good stuff. But a few of my favorite scenes are always whenever, Miranda and the kids are gone, and it's just Daniel and Stu.
Yeah.
Like, especially in this one, where he's going, oh yeah, she's got power tools in the bedroom, and she like calls one of them Rumple Foreskin, and those scenes are great. But she does excuse herself, goes into the bathroom, gets caught going into the men's room by Miranda coming out of the women's room, gets changed back into Daniel, goes over to meet Mr. Lundy, which he sits down, they get right into it, talking about traffic, get 3 drinks in him within 30 seconds. And then he excuses himself there and goes right back into the bathroom to go back as Mrs. Doubtfire to order food and everything. And we go through the whole ordering of the food, and Stuart being very insistent that he does not get any spices on his food. Very important. And eventually, you get Mrs. Doubtfire make another excuse. Got to get out of there again. Running back over to Mr. Lundy. Which, this time when he comes back, he's got the lipstick on. Mr. Lundy's asking why he's wearing lipstick. And he goes through with the whole, the old frat excuse. Oh, the ex-girlfriend works here, yada, yada, yada. And Mr. Lundy being the studio exec that he is. Well, maybe she's got a friend that we could take to the casting couch. Back off into the bathroom. Yeah. He's got to go get himself set up, which gives him an excuse to get back over to the table, to get over there with the family. And this time on his way through, he takes a little swing through the kitchen and dumps a lot of pepper onto Mr. Stew's shrimp there. But as he's coming back out, he's pretty inebriated with all the drinks after sitting with Mr. Lundy. Makes a wrong turn and goes to the wrong table and sits down in front of Mr. Lundy, who's sitting there going, "Excuse me, miss, can I help you?" And that's when Daniel realizes, hey, yeah, how's it going? And Lundy's like, Daniel? And thinking on his feet, he goes, well, I want you to meet your new host. This is Euphigenia Doubtfire. Hip hop granny with the beep bop and the booping and the bopping, and he gets right into the Bill Cosby there. But at this point, food served over at the other table. Stuart takes a bite. She doesn't know he's deathly allergic to these spices, and he begins to choke. Well, that creates a scene. Miss Doubtfire hears it and goes sprinting through. Help is on the way!
That's my favorite line in the whole movie.
Oh, yes.
Help is on the way, dear.
Yes, it is. It's the one that I always quote when I'm going to help my children. Jumps through, gets the Heimlich on there, and he's really giving it to him. But through this, gets the shrimp out, stands up, and the jig is up. The mask
Half his
off.
face is hanging off.
And that is when Miranda realizes why she felt so known. Daniel is Mrs. Doubtfire. So, in a huff, grabs the kids.
That was more than a huff.
Yeah,
that was a fucking mental breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you've got to, just blah, 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 blah.
I gotta go. I have to leave. I have to go.
Gotta get over this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because to think that, which you can get it, because right there at that moment, the things that's going through her minds is, that person was the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. But it was my ex-husband who put us in this mess. So why couldn't he just do this? That's that thought process, and you could see it. She did good with that. You could see that thought process just flow across her face. And then she got the hell out of there. So at this point, as low as he can go, we cue back to the old courtroom, where the judge just basically says, you were a great actor. You managed to convince your ex-wife that you were this 63-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're going to get very limited visitation. Going to be supervised.
Yep.
And, his chances are up. So, he's defeated at this point. He's done. He's over.
Yep.
But time goes on. He has his show. And one day, Miranda and the kids are all talking about how they miss Mrs. Doubtfire, and they're in the room, and all of a sudden they hear a voice coming from another room.
Hello, dearies.
And they are shocked to see Mrs. Doubtfire has landed herself in her own little TV show. And it's, after a few weeks, Miranda shows up at said TV show with a proposition for Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartwarming.
Yes. I
So,
mean, I can't imagine what he went through during that time.
well,
Thankfully, he got his TV show and was able to keep himself occupied. But, we go back to Miranda's house. It's time to meet the new babysitter. Kid's unhappy. Miranda's not. Miranda's a little too overjoyed for this. When they're like, come on, let's go meet the new babysitter. And they're like, no. But she knows why. And they open the door. Daniel is the new babysitter, going to take his kids unsupervised.
mm-hmm.
Regardless, she took care of the courts. And that's a wrap on Mrs. Doubtfire. So let's discuss a little bit. Let's talk about Daniel's progression throughout the movie. When do you feel was like the key point that he actually like changes?
That's tough. Because I would dare say it's immediate for the most part.
I don't think, not right away.
No, I think that once he's in that role of Mrs. Doubtfire,
Mm-hmm.
the change was immediate. Because he did it through manipulation and all that stuff, but he used her to turn the kids around,
Mm-hmm.
get Chris to do his work and all that stuff, get Lydia kind of come around and not be such a bitch. And he kind of committed himself to, actually being a parent more than he was when he was a parent.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't, and I think that honestly, that's really, the only change he really made. I think at the end, it wasn't so much a change as he just realized that this is the way it is now. Now I'm still their dad.
Yeah.
I'm just not there.
So I think the key point in this change is when he sees his family with Stu. And because, his first few weeks as Mrs. Doubtfire, he was still messy, couldn't cook for the life of him. But then you slowly start to see like the changes coming when he can cook. And then I think like that scene when he's sitting with the kids at the dinner table in his apartment and it's a home cooked meal, even though it's spaghetti and meatballs or whatever.
Home cooked is home cooked.
Yeah. And I think that's when you see like, okay, now he's a changed man. Because you saw the apartment the first few times, it was a mess. Chinese food everywhere. Now it's clean, it's organized, he's cooking, and the kids are proud of him that he's changed. Even though Lydia and Chris both know the fact that he's Mrs. Doubtfire at this point. But, even Miranda sees the change. I think that was his turning point.
I mean, yeah, there's that change there, but I just mean like because before the divorce, like before he even stepped into the Miss Doubtfire role, he was Mr. Fun and Games.
Yeah. He was like a big kid.
He wasn't the hammer, he was the kid.
Yeah.
And her kicking him out kind of just, obviously destroyed him and all that stuff. But when he stepped into the role of Mrs. Doubtfire, like he literally stepped into that role.
Yeah.
But it and it in turn made him to be the better parent. It kind of gave him the outlet to be the parent that he wasn't, and he should have been the whole time. So, and I mean that was almost immediate. So it's kind of hard. Like I get like what you're saying, like that's where you can see the change kind of seep into his life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But it's kind of hard. So
because if you look at Mrs. Doubtfire, he knew what Miranda wanted.
Yep.
And that's what Mrs. Doubtfire was. It was basically him saying all the right things and doing all the right things, or trying to do the right things to Miranda's standards. So, how about the concept of this movie?
I mean, it was certainly a new way to look at a divorce movie.
Yes.
Because a lot of them now, a lot of them at that time were like yours, mine, and ours.
Yeah.
Where it was, oh, here's a dad with 6 kids and a mom with 6 kids, and we'll throw them all together, and you see that side of it. Whereas this movie kind of lets you see what kind of happens throughout, and the toll it actually took on the family before they get to the point where they're getting all blended together again. But it did it with a funny route.
Yeah, I mean it definitely shows like the true side of things.
Yeah, like, it made it a little bit more real.
It's not fun when your parents get divorced and you can only see your mother or father, however it's decided, like so many days out of the week. But it's very innovative for him to come up with the idea to dress in drag and completely change who he is, but that shows that he would do anything for his kids. So it gives that like heartfelt message along with it. That's the least what I got from it. Here's a big question, which kind of ties into why there was never a sequel. Would it hold up today?
I mean, well, nowadays this movie wouldn't be made because stupid political people.
And somebody would bound to be offended by it that this man.
You got a man to dress as a woman who doesn't do it on the. Yeah, I know. I get it. Yeah.
It's a sensitive subject.
Yes.
I'm surprised there hasn't been like a canceling of this movie.
Yeah. Some people are untouchable. I think Robin Williams is untouchable.
Yeah, and so how about the length? 2 hours and 5 minutes.
I mean, it was a long one, but this movie's just too goddamn entertaining.
It flies by.
Yeah.
Like
you don't notice that it's that long. It's just too good.
Yeah. What's your favorite scene in the movie?
Oh, I don't know. I'm always kind of partial to the interactions with the bus driver.
Yeah.
He's always trying to hit on her.
Oh, like when the guy grabs her purse.
Oh yeah.
Give it up.
Get out of here, pal.
I have to say my favorite scene is when Stu starts choking and she, don't worry, dearie, help is on the way. Okay. Directing and acting, unbelievable.
Yep.
Chris Columbus is a great director. Robin Williams, great actor. Gone way too soon. Sequel potential, reboot.
There's not really a sequel. You couldn't really do a sequel to this. He can't lose his kids and then do it again, you know?
Well, so I read an article that talked about the original plan for the sequel. And it was he becomes something at a college where Lydia's going to be closer to her. And he has to dress up as Mrs. Doubtfire. But the script was reworked over and over again, and they just couldn't come to terms on
Part
it.
of the problem would be he couldn't do Mrs. Doubtfire because Mrs. Doubtfire is a TV character too, so people are going to know her.
But that might have just been in the local cable access on.
That doesn't matter if it's on TV. By that time, it's internet age, man.
And I mean, this was somewhat rebooted with Big Mama's House.
That's totally different.
Same concept, but different. Not so much dealing with divorce as like.
It's wholly different.
But if we could reboot this, who could you get to play?
There's nobody.
You don't think there's anybody that can play the Daniel character?
There's nobody who can be Robin Williams. I mean, there's people who could play. I don't know that there's anybody who could do it quite the same.
Yeah. See, that's the problem nowadays. Is there's not. Back in the old days, there was people that were known for mob movies. There were people that were known for comedy movies, strictly comedy movies. They do the serious role every once in a while. But nowadays, everybody does everything.
And that's part of why they're all striking. I'm for the stop having these big name people do voice acting and let the voice actors do the voice acting, let the big stars be the big stars. But I don't know that there's anybody who can do this the same way. But then again, we always say that, and then somebody comes along and so.
Do we recommend...
I don't have the vision to see it.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. But do we recommend this movie?
1,000%.
Well,
I'm just watching it once a month.
Okay, that's a little much. But IMDb gave it a 7.1 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, 70 out of 100. Letterboxd, 3.6 out of 5. Justin, how many mugs do you give Mrs. Doubtfire?
4.5.
I'm with you on the 4.5. That's a 4.5 from each. 4.5 mugs from each of us for Mrs. Doubtfire. What are we covering next week, Justin?
Well, if there's no Kyle, the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Yes, starring Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage. All right, I think that wraps up this week's episode. The bar is now closed. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow us and stay up to date with the podcast at the Movie Bar Pod on Twitter, at the Movie Bar Podcast on Instagram, and at the Movie Bar Pod on YouTube and TikTok, and at the Movie Bar Podcast on Facebook.
We are on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, Anchor, Google Podcast, and most places you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to check out our website, www.moviebarpod.com.
Thank you for listening, and please let us know what you want to hear by contacting us on social media or via email at themoviebar@outlook.com. Please be sure to like, review, subscribe. Please like, review, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends and family. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye. Hemp is on the way.